The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
We're all familiar with the three whats: what it is, what it can do for me, and what does it cost. Tyler Rickenaugh, Country Financial, can help you find the answers with insurance coverage to help protect what's most important to you, all at a price you can afford. So while you're juggling work and kids while trying to keep an eye on your financial future, Tyler Rickenaugh, Country Financial, will make sure they are the first ones there when you need them most.
The kids are back to school, and your schedule is busier than ever. From daycare pickup, doctor's appointments, sports, and college tuition, a parent's signature is a powerful thing. Have you ever stopped to think, what would happen if you weren't able to provide one? With thoughtful estate planning, you can make sure that your child's health and education needs are met in the event of your absence due to a temporary incapacity or even death. The estate planning team at Hurley Burrish is here to help.
Fostering deeper relationships, influencing behavior change, developing resilience. You're about to start winning. Here is your host, Christine Bright.
Welcome to Parenting Game. I am so glad you are here. This is episode 3 in our series on getting your child ready for college. And today we are going to be talking about campus safety. My guest is Brent Plisch, who is the Assistant Chief of UW-Madison Police Department. Brent, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
We had a great discussion, and I had in my idea of how this was all going to go, talking about campus safety, but you brought up some real valid points that I hadn't even thought about. So I'm excited to get into that. But before we do, share a little bit about your family and then your journey to becoming the Assistant Chief.
Yeah, so I've been married for, I better get this right, like 18 years. I've got 2 great kids, really involved in a lot of stuff at the grade school or middle school level now. So we stay really active with all kinds of sports and scouting activities and all kinds of outdoor stuff.
Awesome.
I've been a police officer or law enforcement officer with UW-Madison Police for going into my 18th year. Started out as a patrol officer. I've been in all kinds of different assignments on all 3 patrol shifts at UW-Madison Police. Been a canine handler, a bike officer, a field training officer, sergeant or supervisor on multiple shifts. Became a detective sergeant. And then lieutenant in investigations, helping with investigative services, and then promoted to captain and did a lot of administrative type projects, developing new programs and processes at UW-Madison, and then became assistant chief of operations in 2019.
Wow, so long career. Seen a lot of things.
Yeah.
You speak very boldly on the topics that we're going to discuss today, which I know are going to be very important and very helpful to parents. Have you always wanted to be in law enforcement?
You know, yeah, I've been asked this question a couple of times at public events. I've wanted to be a law enforcement officer since I was in 4th grade. I was actually attacked by a dog. And the police officer that responded was just a phenomenal human being in reassuring me that things were going to be all right. And I thought, well, I would love to be a canine handler. So I've had the opportunity to live out my 4th grade dream of being a canine officer, and this really is a passion. And I think specifically working in higher ed, we look at our job as not just being law enforcement, but being part of the educational process for students and engaging with them in meaningful ways that hopefully, in the spirit of the Wisconsin idea, at least at UW-Madison, that students can take the things that they learn in concert with our department, ways to do things right, ways to build community together and in partnership, and they can take those things beyond the walls of UW-Madison and grow healthy relationships with the police department wherever they choose to move afterwards.
Yeah, you know, you introduced me to your website and I got on there, and there's just so many resources and great programs that, you know, not only assist in safety and health and well-being, but also a way I believe character building and learning how, and I love this part of being invested in the community and how to be a good community member to your fellow students. So we'll get into some of this as we go down or continue to talk. But one of the things that I hadn't thought about, and mainly because I did not have a son that had mental health issues, but you were very passionate about talking about, so I'm like, we're gonna dive into this right away. But the issue of if you have a student coming to campus that has mental health issues, one of the things that struck me is you said sometimes parents think the change is going to be good for them. And they're like, this is going to make everything better, and that isn't necessarily the case. So share with us what is important for parents to put in place when they have a child that has mental health issues.
I think we prepare our students throughout their high school careers in a number of ways. We make sure that they're taking challenging courses to prepare them academically for the college choice that they might make afterwards. Even leading up to the move into a dorm, or preparing them for life type things like buying towels and washcloths and coffee makers. We're preparing them to start living their lives. But I think it's also worth noting, like, there's mental health problems that typically start to develop around college age, and preparing students to know what their resources are and preparing them to find a support system, enabling the students, giving them the power to find a support system that's important to them and to their mental health success. And I think it's important for not just students that have known mental health issues, but for all students, because you never know when somebody may find themselves with a roommate who's suffering from a mental health issue, and they turn to that roommate and look for support there. So I think it's important for people to know the support systems that are available, to create support systems. Later on, we'll talk a little bit about campus safety in general terms. And I think just being involved in different organizations, there's, at UW-Madison, for example, there's hundreds of student organizations, and there may be things that students are comfortable engaging with, or new things. And I think the more we push students to get involved with stuff, the better it is, not just for mental health, but mental wellness.
And the research shows that the kids who do get plugged in more into activities, into the community, are much more successful in their college career than children who don't, students, the students who don't. So share with me, there's different places that they should go to make people aware that their child does have a mental health issue. First, let's start with reaching out to UW-Madison Police Department.
There have been, I think, this shift, and I think a lot of it has to do with taking the stigma out of mental health issues. So we're really happy when a parent or parents come to UW-Madison Police Department with their student to let us know about mental health issues, to let us know how their student best responds when they're in crisis. That allows us to prepare a plan. We talk cooperatively with that student to find out how we can best support them through their educational journey while they're on campus. It creates open dialogue and takes the stigma out of that mental health issue that the student might be experiencing.
Yeah, law enforcement has greatly improved how they approach people with mental health issues, and I just applaud you guys. As I said, the resources that I saw online are just amazing. Also, too, it's important for them to go to the administration as well.
Yeah, I think, a lot of students don't realize that when they're paying their tuition dollars, it's going toward things like student segregated fees, which means things like mental health support through university health services. And it may be called different things on different campuses, but that's a service that students are paying for. It's a medical facility. It has mental health counselors. And seeking out those resources and learning about them is, I think, vitally important to set students up for success. And all students, and preparing everybody to know that they're enabled. They can go contact these resources if they need them.
That's excellent. Okay, then we got into, because when we first talked, of course, my initial thing is as well, we need to share with parents about being more bold about having the conversation around drinking. And I had an idea of how I thought that conversation was going to go, and then you shared with me a statistic that you're like, this is really hard to share, but I think it's important for people to know. about when you see these kids who are really struggling and I don't want to say in trouble, but obviously engaging in the heavy drinking. What's going on with the family dynamic, and what have you seen?
Yeah, a lot of times when we see high-risk drinking behaviors showing up on campus, it's not just affecting a student in one area. Like, they're not just having a single police contact because of a high-risk drinking behavior. They're also suffering academically. They may be having issues socializing in their residence hall or their community that they're living in. And somebody who's coming to campus, for example, that we may take to detox for an evening, their blood alcohol's way over the legal limit. We might see a preliminary breath test of like a 0.20 up to a 0.25, even a 0.30. That's not the first time that they've consumed alcohol. They are, we're seeing these sort of almost chronic, severe alcoholism at a young age. And we've seen instances of parents bringing bottles of alcohol or bringing in beer with their students that move in as sort of a rite of passage in Wisconsin. And the good news is that's not common, but unfortunately it does happen. And I think having that tough conversation and realizing that alcohol is going to negatively impact academic success, especially we've seen that at UW-Madison. We need to have that tough conversation about smart alcohol use, responsible alcohol use.
And I think for parents, which is going to be hard for some, is taking a look at what am I passing along? What have they seen in our family? And that might be even a harder conversation of, are we just passing along a detrimental family trait, as they go. So we know, that it happens. And you guys have some really great protections in place and support in place. I think what's really important, because I don't think a lot of people know, and I think parents need to know about your policy. If a friend, especially if they're underage, what do I do? My friend's in trouble, they have drank too much, and of course we know the fear set in of, I'm going to be in trouble, they're going to be arrested, I'm going to be arrested, and they may not do anything. But you guys have set up a policy to eliminate that barrier.
Correct. A number of years ago, Wisconsin passed a state statute, and I'm really fortunate to say that UW-Madison has been practicing this for years before the state statute was enacted, and I think our policy regarding medical amnesty through responsible action actually takes it a step forward and provides protection to individuals who not only call us but cooperate with a situation to let us know about somebody who's either been a victim of a crime or who's in a medical emergency, to get them the help that they need. And while we issue a citation for that, we sort of hold that citation, what we'd say is like hold it in abeyance, to make sure that they're completing appropriate treatment programs, restorative justice type programs, and then we're not forwarding those citations onto the court process. The students that are involved in these incidents generally complete these projects, and we don't have repeat type offenses. So I think overall we're getting more calls from students who are concerned about their roommates or friends who have consumed too much alcohol. And it's for the safety of the students that we've enacted this policy, and we did it in cooperation with the students. The students from like student governance groups and other governance groups on campus helped us create this campus-wide policy to be used for students. And I think that was a really important piece, to have the student buy-in and understanding as to what medical amnesty meant.
And that protects both. So it protects the person reporting, and then the reportee, I don't know what the proper term
and the reason,
the person in crisis,
yes,
and the person
crisis,
calling in the crisis.
And the reason we wanted to make sure that happened is because we don't want somebody to not call us if they know that, for example, their roommate or their friend is going to end up in trouble with a citation or arrested for something. And we certainly don't want victims of crimes not calling us to report the fact that they've been victimized just because they've been consuming alcohol. And that was something we used to hear of a lot. Like I didn't call when I was struck by my partner or my my boyfriend, girlfriend, or I didn't call for the sexual assault because I had been consuming alcohol, and I didn't want to be arrested or cited for that. And that's certainly not something that we do. We take criminal reports very seriously and want to make sure that victims and people who might be in medical distress get the help that they need.
Yeah, I didn't have this in our outline, but it's just come to me, and I think it's important for people, and especially parents, to understand. Can you explain what happens? Because we were talking about going to detox, and quite honestly, I've heard it, I have a rough idea what it is. Can you just explain that process and what that looks like if a student has to be taken to detox?
Yeah, so typically students are going to detox, or anyone is going to detox for one of two reasons. One is incapacitation by the use of alcohol. That means that they're incapable of caring for themselves. That may be demonstrated through a number of things. They're out on the street during the winter with no shoes and no jacket on, and they think they're walking towards their home, and their home is behind them. It's like clearly incapable of caring for themselves. Or there's a measure of suicidality mixed with consumption of alcohol. The individual may not be able to be seen at a hospital because of the consumption of alcohol, so they would go to detox first to wait for the effects of the alcohol to wear off. It is a medical facility, so once we transfer custody of the individual to the detox center, they're in the care of medical folks with constant evaluation and observation. Usually stay there about 12 hours or until they're completely sober. And if they need follow-up appointments for things like mental health concerns, the provider, whether that's a nurse or a nurse practitioner at detox, would make those connections with them, ask the questions about suicidal type behaviors or drinking behaviors, and get that person hopefully on the right track.
So it isn't they're just getting shoved on a bed, sobered up, kicking out. It is an opportunity for the students to be cared for and their overall well-being to be assessed.
Yes, and I think more importantly, the school, at least at UW-Madison, is also following up. And we consider that, if you end up in detox, that's a high-risk drinking behavior. Like, you've not been able to care for yourself, and it puts yourself at risk. And UW-Madison has a policy that at that point they call parents to get parents engaged and involved to make sure that there's a collaborative approach there to making sure that there aren't further issues.
Oh, that is great. Thank you for explaining that, because that gives me a clearer picture too. So finally, there's overall campus safety concerns that we wanted to discuss, and you guys have just a lot of different things. You have Badger Watch. And there was one other one too that you had.
We've got a number of emergency alert systems. We have our off-campus alerts. We have campus crime warnings.
Oh, it was, I'm sorry, I wanted you to touch base on too, that whole community piece that we had initially got. Thank goodness I have notes. But yes, let's go ahead and talk about Badger Watch, but then just about that engagement in the community piece as well.
Yeah, Badger Watch is sort of our version of you see driving around communities, you see the community watch signs up. And that's Badger Watch is actually a program developed by our group of community officers. It's been recognized by the National Association of Sheriffs as one of the best community sort of related projects several years ago. But during that, we bring in people from all over the campus, faculty, staff, students, and we have engagement opportunities and crime prevention type opportunities. So it's a great way to bring everybody together, because we have the sense that community safety, the police department can't do that alone. We need partnerships. We need students to help with community safety and take an active role in that. We need our faculty and staff members to take an active role. We can't be in every building all the time, so we rely on our partners to provide us guidance, and they know what normal looks like in their buildings, and when something's out of place, we need I think one of our slogans for it is, our Badger eyes are everywhere. And we want to have responsible Badgers on our campus looking out for things that are out of place and things that need to be addressed to keep everybody safe.
And then tell us a little bit more about how students can get involved in the community, and then how that just affects their behavior of others.
I think one of the interesting things, specifically with college campus environment and community, is that people aren't there very long. So it's really hard to become invested in a place that you might be there for 4 years and then you're gone. You may move to Buffalo, New York, and then what's your investment back on campus? So I think it's really important for students to get engaged, to be engaged, to join clubs, to join with the police department. We have opportunities where we'll invite anybody in to participate in training with us, to take classes in mental health, stuff like crisis intervention, partnership training, and we want students involved like that. And I think that's, and not just students, but faculty and staff as well. And I think as we talk about things like mental health, as we talk about high-risk drinking behaviors or campus safety, I think partnership and community involvement help all three of those areas. So community involvement is a key to success, I think, for any college student to get through the experience of campus life and campus environment.
Yeah. And then share with us just some basic, I say common sense, tips, but often in the excitement and the heat of a moment of an activity, they get overlooked. Sometimes parents just assume that my student is going to know these common sense tips, and then they're not discussed. So what are give me about 3 of those of just like some common sense things that every student should know on campus.
Yeah, I think one of the ways that we see crimes happening, for example, in residence halls frequently is we call it piggybacking. So somebody will hold the door open for somebody else to come into the building because we're all Midwest nice, right? We want to hold the door open for somebody that wants to walk into the building behind us. But what we see is that's what folks who want to burglarize rooms are getting into the building that way because they don't have the right access cards to access the building, so they'll just walk in behind another student. And I think largely our campuses any college campus is very safe. UW Madison has a lower crime rate than the city of Madison, which is fairly low for a city the size that it is. But there's often, I think, this sense of like, well, we're on campus, it's a safe place. I don't need to worry about who's walking in the door behind me. And in combination with, I don't want to challenge somebody, that leads to crimes being committed. And it's really an unfortunate thing that we see. And luckily, we've not seen any serious incidents. It's been mostly property type crimes. But being aware of your surroundings and knowing who's in the building and who belongs in certain buildings and who doesn't is super important. I think the next one is, as we talk about alcohol, responsible drinking behaviors. We don't take enforcement action unless there's a behavior-related component with it. So that means that we're looking for behaviors that draw attention to the individual, and that's usually placing themselves or somebody else in danger. And that's what, getting into fights, that kind of stuff. And when we see that happening, there's usually a higher level of alcohol consumption that's gone on. So being with friends who will check your responsibility and say, hey, you need to back away from this, or need to stop drinking. We need to leave this party. We need to leave the bar. I think it's really good to surround yourself with people that will hold you accountable.
I was saying top 3. I don't know. I was just saying if you had a top 3.
In terms of safety, I think learning all of the resources. Campuses have a ton of resources out there. Right now, we have a safety app that the police department administers, and we're in the middle of revising that. And many campuses are constantly revising and updating safety apps that put technology in your hand. I remember when I went to college, blue phones were the big thing. And we still have them, even at UW-Madison, we have blue phones, but everybody has a blue phone in their hand now. And we're working on updating these technologies to make sure that students can stay connected with safety stuff. And now parents can as well. Our new safety app that's coming out, parents can download that app and get all the emergency alerts that we send out, any crime warnings or crime notices that we would put out to inform our community. And I think it's really wise for parents to engage their students on those things and say, hey, did you hear about this thing that happened on campus? Are you aware of it, so that you can take preventative measures to not be involved in that? And I think those critical conversations, whether it's about crime or mental health, like parents should be asking students. They should know about critical times like finals, like midterms, like times when classes should be dropped. Those really key critical times that create a lot of stress in students' lives. And then connect with their student about that. How are you feeling going into finals? How are you feeling going into midterms? For freshmen to come back home after their first semester is a really traumatic time for some folks. So connecting with a new student and finding out how they're doing and questioning if something's off, asking the question about behaviors, or asking the question about how students are feeling, and being really open and honest, like, are you feeling suicidal because you don't seem like the normal you? It's really critical for parents.
Absolutely. And I think, there's that part of, you want to respect, They're an adult now, so you want to respect that and, and give them some more, leash, but they're still mentally, an adolescent. And to keep that connection and to keep those conversations going, I think is really, really important. And I think for students too, to not always get so defensive. There is going to be a day where you're going to be thankful that your parents were aware and willing to have those conversations, with you. Thank you so much for coming in. This was such a great episode. I know it will be so helpful to so many parents, and I just appreciate all the resources that the police department has for students and parents. And I thank you for tuning into The Parenting Game.
We're all familiar with the 3 whats: what it is, what it can do for me, and what does it cost. Tyler Rickenaugh, Country Financial, can help you find the answers with insurance coverage to help protect what's most important to you, all at a price you can afford. So while you're juggling work and kids while trying to keep an eye on your financial future, Tyler Rickenaugh, Country Financial will make sure they are the first ones there when you need them most. The kids are back to school, and your schedule is busier than ever. From daycare pickup, doctor's appointments, sports, and college tuition, a parent's signature is a powerful thing. Have you ever stopped to think, what would happen if you weren't able to provide one? With thoughtful estate planning, you can make sure that your child's health and education needs are met in the event of your absence due to a temporary incapacity or even death. The estate planning team at Hurley Burish is here to help.
Thank you for watching The Parenting Game. All episodes of The Parenting Game are available on demand at sunprairiemediacenter.com.